What makes you afraid? Some of All Fear lives at the crossroads between our greatest phobias and the horror movies we love to experience. Part pop culture and part psychology. It's time to find out why we're all so scared of the dark.
Yeah, I think it may have been a little bit more cohesive.
Right.
I don't know. But, you know, what do you do?
What are you gonna do?
What are you going to do? I got my coffee.
I got mine too.
In my Shark Week mug. And there's a little bit of vodka in this Shirley Temple.
Just a tiny bit?
Mm-hmm. So I think we're ready to go. Are you ready to go?
I don't know. My lackluster
We're actually already
is.
going.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me.
Yeah. That's like the sneaky, we're not really recording yet. Let's talk like we're just
Candid recording.
Candid recording. There you go. Welcome back, Feardos. We are the Sum of All Fear podcast, the show that talks about real life phobias from a mental health perspective and then pairs those fears with horror movies that prey on them. And I'm Drew, a writer and horror nerd, and this is my awesome wife, Chris, a professional mental health therapist.
Hi, I do the thing.
You do things.
I do the thing.
Sometimes I do some things.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do some things. You do lots of things.
We do the thing together.
Yeah. And you know what I heard, Chris?
What?
I heard we're being called the Ben Haskam and Beverly Marsh of podcasting.
Ooh.
We've been up, and you know why we're being called that? It's because I look so much like the guy that's playing the adult Ben in the new It movie.
When we went to see it, I went,
on.
Oh my God,
it's like looking into a mirror.
It's uncanny.
I have the exact same body type.
Much of my eyeballs in it.
Hey, we're going to Hollywood, baby.
Oh man, I know.
We are going to Hollywood next month. I couldn't stand it anymore. It's been such a crazy, stressful summer that I made like the unilateral decision a couple days ago that I'm like, we're getting the fuck out of Dodge and we're taking a little vacation. So we decided to go down to
We decided.
We gave a couple of options. There was a couple of options.
Although out of the options, I would prefer to go down to LA. There's so much to do, especially during the Halloween
what kind of vacation you want.
time of year.
You got to have if you're going for if you just want to go sit in nature and do nothing for a few days.
I kind of wanted to do that.
Which I kind of wanted to do too.
But
it's also October.
Right.
And it's Halloween time. And I was like, where can we go for some great Halloween horror stuff?
We're
going to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios.
One of my staff members was talking about how they used to live in the town that Halloween Town was based on from the movie.
Oh.
I think it's a little
it's not Salem
west. I think it's a little west of Portland,
cool.
Oregon, and she said that they do Halloween
crazy
hard
stuff
up there, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're going to Halloween Horror Nights, which I've been wanting to go to for a few years, and they've got some killer mazes this year.
Did you get the tickets?
What's that?
Did you get the tickets?
I did get the tickets.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, the tickets have been bought.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that
they have a Stranger Things themed maze this year. They have an Us themed maze. They have Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is apropos.
Ghostbusters.
It's gonna be super fun. Ghostbusters, House of a Thousand Corpses, Wolfman versus Frankenstein, Creepshow, The Walking Dead, and then they have a couple of original ones as well. So I'm excited.
And we get to do at night the Jurassic Park ride.
Yeah, they have some of the other rides open,
and that's going to be badass.
So it should be really fun. And then also Screamfest is going on that week, which is a film festival that I've been wanting to kind of maybe check out when I was down there.
And that's at Grum's, right? Chinese theater?
At the Chinese theater, yeah. I don't think it's called that anymore.
It's
Grumman's?
Grum's?
I don't know.
Now
it's called
I always just do
it's called the TLC Center Theater or something now. It's not but it's the same
Minute Maid Theater.
Yeah, something. Exactly. US Cellular Theater.
Sprint Wireless Theater.
Yeah, exactly. Went out last night and had a fun little watch party for It Chapter 2.
Yes!
So we are ready to go. We have all of our It notes. Although I have a billion notes for It Chapter 1. And It Chapter 2, I'm like, I don't.
You're still trying to digest it.
It's hard the next day to.
But we have watched It Chapter 1 at least 4 times, if not more.
And I've watched the miniseries 2 or 3 times as well.
So we have the second chapter a little fresh, but we're going to really kind of dive in and process it during this episode.
I think so. I think you're going to get the fresh hot takes right here.
Ooh, fresh hot takes.
Fresh hot takes.
Oh, I love fresh hot takes.
Last night we went out and had our friends Creature Feature and Mr. Creature Feature.
Mr. Creature?
Chris and
we have so many Chris's. There was Chris, and Chris last night.
Oh my gosh, 3 Chris's.
Jana and Drew.
The Chris's outnumbered the non-Chris's.
Yeah, no, we would take over
Chris
the world.
Was out last night with us as well.
Yeah.
And he brought me another freaking awesome present. He's always bringing me
so amazing. He's
like,
so
cool.
thoughtful.
He brought me the score from the movie Prevenge, which is on Shudder right now.
We have to check that out.
Which I haven't gotten a chance to listen to yet, but I heard it's pretty awesome.
So it looks insane.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun hanging out with the Feardos last night. We got seats at the old IMAX theater, and someone brought their sick baby.
Oh yeah, what was up with that? There's literally like a baby in there, and the baby is sick, and it's coughing,
and it's an older baby too, not like
a toddler,
like a toddler-esque, like not walking, maybe.
Who does that?
But it was coughing and sneezing like wildly during the whole thing, and I'm like, first of all, it is very late
Poor baby.
For a child
exactly.
Who is ill, and also it is very loud in here.
Do not bring your babies to the movie theater. I'm sorry, like you should. There's no reason to ever bring your baby to a movie theater. Like you can wait a couple years when that baby's old enough to go to a movie.
Oh, well, before then it'll just come out on VHS.
Or you can get a babysitter.
VHS.
You can get
it'll come out on DVD.
A VHS. Wait till it comes out on VHS.
I was looking at your VHS shirt.
You might be waiting a really long time. But wait for it till it comes out on VHS.
Looking at your VHS shirt.
You have to get into a time machine and go back to 19.
That's why they're
1989.
Like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm bringing my baby to the theater. I don't want to go back and get a VHS.
That's right. It's gonna take forever.
Fuck.
Going to the movie theater.
What a process. No.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't like it.
But otherwise, we had a blast. They were giving out posters. We got special It cups that say "I love Derry," although I really wish it would have said like "I love beavers" or something like that, because that is the Derry mascot.
Sorry, they had those "I love beaver" hats.
Yes, I would. If they would have given out those hats, that would have been the best thing ever.
Yeah, that's my favorite line from It Chapter 1 was when he said, I have it written down exactly word for word, so let me find it so I don't screw it up, because I will.
Let's play a quick.
Remember these things.
Let's play a quick game real quick. Let's play. How many times did we get up to go to the bathroom during It Chapter 2?
I didn't get it one time.
Me either.
Yeah, we did really well.
We did so good. We planned it well.
Yeah, my favorite is when they're in Ben's room in chapter 1, and they're looking at all the historical documents on the wall. And Ben says, Derry started as a beaver trapping camp. And Richie says, still is. Am I right, boys?
Am I right, boys? High five. And Finn Wolfhard, I fucking adore that kid.
He's
really, amazing.
Really he is so good. All right, guys. Well, if you like the show, we need to get into our clowns here soon.
I know we're itchy.
So much it to get into today. If you like the show, we'd love to get to know you on social media. So come join the conversation at Some of All Fear Podcast on Facebook, and at Some of All Fear Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And if the spirit does move you, you can support us on Patreon, like our awesome friend and Feardo James from the Eek Channel podcast. Go and check it out. It's a badass podcast. And our friend Toby from McKinney, Texas.
Oh, I do want to make a note. Eek Channel podcast, they did a post this week about mental health. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to them, because this world of horror can be very misunderstood. And the folks who really are into horror can be very misunderstood. But he spoke so candidly about his experience with just wrestling with his own stuff lately. And I just wanted
that's awesome. I just
wanted to say that I appreciated that so much. And with Toby and her husband went to an CLOWNS
boyfriend. I'm not sure
boyfriend. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure what the marital status is.
Significant other that attended with her. I don't know the story, but Toby went to go see it at an all clowns showing.
All clowns showing at
you had to go as a clown.
Yeah, you had to dress as a clown to go, which I think is a really, really fun.
So we have some amazing Feardos out there.
That's right. So way to go, guys. And of course, we would love for you to go to your podcast apps right now, like pause the show, wander over to your podcast app, and give us a rating and review. It just takes like 2 seconds. It's like the quickest thing in the world. So hold on. All right, we paused.
Do it now.
Now. All right.
Did you do it?
And then if you do give us a rating, and we'll give you a shout out. And if you give us your address, we'll send you some stickers.
Yeah, totally.
So, and you can do that anyway. You don't even have to like us. We'll just send you stickers anyway.
Yeah, we can send you stickers and you can burn them if you want.
Sure.
That's fine.
Sure.
Whatever you want to do with them, we'll just send them to you.
To the sticker god.
Yeah. Oh, great sticker god. I bow to thee.
I will burn this terrible podcast stickers in front of you.
Burn, terrible podcast, burn.
Are you ready?
I'm ready
to move on from all this rambling.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, it's time for the world's greatest Stephen King based trivia game.
What the fear? You say it now.
What the fear?
There you go. Okay, you have to say it like that.
Why don't you like me calling it the Stephen King podcast?
Well, because...
Or sorry, the Stephen King podcast. Should be called the Stephen King podcast.
Holy shit.
We've had like 5 episodes on just Stephen King, so maybe we should be called like the Stephen King podcast.
Well,
there's already like 20 of those out there, though.
That's true. That's true. There are a lot.
By the way, big shout out to the Stephen King cast and the Losers Club. I listened to a lot of those this week. Good podcasts. Check them out. Definitely have a lot of way more in-depth and way more knowledgeable of the King than I am. Sorry. So this is the Stephen King based trivia game this week because we switched it up. We decided to do something different.
The What the Fear Stephen King edition trivia game.
Okay. What the Fear Stephen King edition.
And I'm running this show this week.
You are.
And so I'm going to give you basically a trivia question about Stephen King's movies.
About the King himself.
About Stephen King's movies. I'm staying just to movies, right?
Stephen King movies.
So you don't even have to go to the books. You don't even have to be that
That's
diehard.
good because I'm not that knowledgeable. I've read a good handful, but
But we'll see what you can do with this, and we'll see what the folks at home playing along can do.
How many questions
knowledge.
are we going
3.
through? Just 3?
Just 3.
Just 3?
Just 3.
Oh man.
Just a little bit.
All right.
Little bit of Stephen
But I like
King.
trivia.
I know.
I can play trivia all day long.
But I don't want to sit here and just beat you down and berate you
for my lack of knowledge.
For your lack of knowledge.
What if you picked like really obscure stuff?
I'd be super turned on if you got it all.
Wow. All right.
You just lit up. That was so funny.
Let's go, Google. I got a computer in front of me.
Wow, that was like
I'll secretly be typing.
That was like Pavlov's salivating dogs right there.
That's right.
Conditioning. What? Okay, are you ready?
Blinky. Horror Virgin. Check it out.
Horror Virgin.
Okay, give me some Stephen King trivia.
Okay, so your first one is, what film features the taunting phrase, "Chow down, wide load"?
What film features the taunting phrase?
What film adaptation features the taunting phrase,
"Chow down,
wide load"?
Oh boy. Okay.
We hear a lot of taunting phrases from it, right?
I am going to say
down here.
Let's see. Let me before I answer just off the cuff, because I have an answer that was in my head. I need to think about this for a second. Is it a pretty major Stephen King movie adaptation, or is it like, was it made for TV? Was it what are we talking here?
I don't know. You
don't know. Okay, good hint.
I'm not the movie person here. You are the resident movie expert.
Was this from and I'm guessing I can't ask you like the decade that the book came out either?
Probably not.
Okay.
I've been concussed too many times in that area of my brain. I do poorly with dates.
Chow down, wide load. Gosh.
Chow down, wide load.
Is this a horror movie? No, I'm serious.
Duh.
There's quite a few that are not horror.
Did Stephen King make not horror?
Lots of non-horror.
What's not horror?
What are you talking about?
What is not horror?
Shawshank.
Shawshank is horrible. That is the horror of the jail system and inequality.
Stand By Me isn't horror.
That is horror. That is the horrors of childhood. It is all horror.
Horror.
You're a whore.
You're a whore. I'm going to say Thinner.
Thinner. That was a good guess. And
or Stand By Me.
I was hoping that you would guess Thinner.
But it is really Stand By Me.
Damn it. Stand By Me was my second guess.
It is Stand By Me.
And that was the one that I first popped into my head. And then I was like, no, maybe it was. I did say Stand By Me afterwards.
You
right
did.
afterwards, like immediately afterwards.
I know.
I was trying to give you two answers so I could get it right.
I know, you
That was
fucking
pretty good,
cheater.
though. That was pretty good. I'm actually pretty good. I had it as my second guess.
No, that was really good. There's a lot. And I liked your pre-questions too, your precursor questions. I liked that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though you had no answers for them
No.
whatsoever.
I just like saying, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right.
Try again.
You
Okay.
are showing your true colors.
Mm-hmm. Okay, number 2. Whose pinup poster does Andy Dufresne first put on his wall in Shawshank Redemption?
So
Very well known.
it is Sophia Loren.
No.
Hold on. I can get this. It is oh man. Oh, what is her name?
You can do it. You can do it, honey. I believe in you. Come on.
Fuzzy Britches.
Fuzzy Bridge.
That's what he calls her in the movie.
What?
She's wearing like a loincloth type thing.
What's Fuzzy Bridges' name?
Gosh, why can I not? Isabella? No. Gosh, it's something like that though, isn't it? Not Isabella. I want to say Isabella Rossellini, but that's not right. Is it?
Why are you looking at me? I'm not going to tell. I'm poker face, poker
I
face.
can't think of it right now. It just slipped my mind.
Okay.
I had it like right there, and then it went
When I
away.
say it,
it's
you're gonna
Italian, right? Or is it Anne Margaret?
Maybe.
It's not Anne Margaret, is it?
No, that one wouldn't be construed as maybe Italian.
Oh, okay. Who is it?
Raquel Welch.
Raquel Welch. Damn it.
And that's why only Raquel. I'm like, maybe that could be construed as.
No, I was for some reason
but-
I had Sophia Loren stuck in my head. I don't know
No.
why.
Okay.
Bummer.
All right. You can redeem.
Fuzzy Britches. I'm pretty sure that's what he calls her.
Fuzzy Bridges. That was the best.
I'm pretty sure. Damn
Okay. Your third and final one is a multi-parter.
Multi-parter.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Name as many movies as you can that take place in Castle Rock.
Ooh. In Castle Rock?
In Castle Rock.
Needful Things?
Yes.
Oh boy. Shawshank?
There's 6 of them. Yes.
Shawshank Redemption. Okay. Needful Things,
Or 5, I
Shawshank.
mean.
Cujo.
Yes. That's 3.
Boy. Any hints?
No.
No? You're not gonna give me any hints at all?
No.
Wow. I gave you hints for phobias. You
Only-
don't give me any hints?
I can't what am I supposed to say? I haven't seen like half of these. And I don't even know,
Are you saying you
like-
can't give me hints because you don't know what they are?
Yeah.
Well,
And like one of them would be super obvious. The other ones I'm like, it's a thing, but I've never seen it.
Gosh.
The other one is
Takes
super
place in
The other
Castle
one is
Rock.
super obvious.
Super obvious.
Like a bigger, more familiar.
More familiar.
Yeah.
So we got Shawshank, right? Needful Things,
Mhm.
Cujo.
Mhm.
Would I get another one?
There's 3 more. No.
There's 3 more. Oh boy. Boy, everybody likes this like dead air in between answering questions.
Yeah, I know.
But you know, what are you gonna do?
What are we gonna do?
They're all answering along with you.
I know they're
They're
screaming.
screaming
at you.
at me.
What the fuck, man?
Oh man.
I mean, you could just say uncle.
It's not Pet Cemetery.
No.
Yeah, because that.
And I could just dominate.
Yeah, I'm
you.
gonna go uncle. I'll go
Uncle?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
all
I
right.
don't want to keep us going here forever and ever.
So you were missing Stand By Me,
Damn it.
Dead Zone,
Yep.
and The Dark Half.
And I knew all those.
So-
I knew every single one of those. And actually, it's what's funny is those are I've never. Well, Stand By Me came from a short story, but
Right.
I've read The Dark Half and I've read The Dead Zone.
See, I've not read either of those.
I could not bring those.
I
those
could
into my life
not
for some
tell you
reason.
what those are about. I would do horribly on this.
Needful
so
Things is one of my favorite his books.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. But
It's really good.
Well, pretty good job on the What the Fear Stephen King edition.
But you said it was a two-part question.
No, I said it was a multi-part answer.
Multi-part answer. Oh man, I wanted another question.
It is a multi-part answer. And you answered some parts.
So we're diving into our Stephen King based part of this phobia, which we're doing. This is part two of coulrophobia, which is the fear of clowns. We've been up to our fear balls in clowns.
Her black fuzzy little fear balls.
Yeah. But we are going to do a phobia section, right? You have some other things you want to talk about with the phobia itself for a little while before we get into Stephen King?
Yeah, there's some stuff that we could explore. I mean, there's always deeper that we could go into these things. And so today we'll talk about some stuff that I heard from a really great podcast called American Hysteria during an episode 6 titled Clown Panic. Or
they're going to say clown panties.
Clown panties.
Falling off our clown sex. Our
there
sex
you go. You
theme from last
there
week.
you are, just being a sex clown.
Dude, you said clown and panic and panties are very close. Don't look at me like I'm some sort of pervert, all right?
You are.
Gosh.
You're not some sort of.
Whatever.
So let's get into it.
All right. We're going to dive into our phobia for today, which is part 2 of coulrophobia, the fear of clowns.
Well, I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown. I amuse you.
People hate clowns now.
I hate clowns.
I don't like chicken, and I hate clowns.
I hate that clown.
The hell is wrong with you?
Oh.
I hate clowns.
Clowns! I hate clowns!
Why are you yelling at me?
Whatever, make me a bicycle clown!
I'm Krusty the Clown, and I don't like you.
Hey, clown.
Clowns.
Clowns.
Clowns!
Clowns.
Except clowns.
Not much anymore. Except clowns, but that's just common sense.
Well, I'm Pennywise the dancing clown.
What's the matter, kid? Don't you like clowns? Why? Don't we make you laugh? Aren't we fucking funny? You best come up with an answer, because I'm going to come back here and check on you and your mama. If you ain't got a reason why you hate clowns, I'm going to kill your whole fucking family.
But where are the clowns? Send in the clowns.
All right. Are you ready to talk a little bit about this phobia a little bit more? Because we dove into it last week, and there is so much about the fear of clowns out in the world. Let's dig a little bit more into it.
Well, and this week I don't want to touch so much on the phobia itself, but more of the effect that clowns have had over, let's say, the last 60 years on society at large, and how our perceptions of clowns have morphed over time, and why that is so pivotal when it comes to nowadays when we're rewatching these things and things like It are coming back at again, why these concepts are still so terrifying to us.
Well, and then you're going to dive into, once we get into the books, we're going to talk about the book, we're going to talk about the miniseries, we're going to talk about the movies, the new movies. You're going to dive into a lot of the psychology behind those particular
absolutely
that particular franchise too, quite a bit. So what do you got for us?
Well, the impact of clowns really hit its kind of height in the 1960s. We saw Bozo kind of hitting his top peak. There was almost a 10-year wait for Bozo's shows in the 1960s
to actually go and be a guest on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And many companies used clowns as branding in the 60s and 70s. So we see McDonald's, we see the use of clowns in advertising so
as a positive,
much
as like a positive thing. Like here's the clowns are happy and they're sweet and they're nice and they're kids love them. So let's use them in our branding.
Right. And
which we talked about a little bit last week. We talked about that history.
Exactly. And even when we look at like psychology, Carl Jung, the jester is one of Carl Jung's archetypes or kind of categories of symbolism that stretch across times and culture. So these recurrences that we see despite any sort of distance or generation. It's like the society's collective unconscious almost. And so this archetype of the jester, the fool, made the clowns actually sacred from this archetypal perspective. They were the ones that helped society vent their anxieties about things that were incredibly terrifying or stressful or saddening. And it actually brought people together as a group collectively.
It's a way to like get over tragedy. It's a way to get over, as a society, it's an archetype of those things that we use to help us get through things, right? And to mourn or whatever by bringing levity.
Right. And that's such a powerful tool for clowns to have played, or clowns or jesters or whatever you want to call them. I'm going to call them clowns for this just now. But for a clown to play that role emotionally during some really taxing times. I mean, at funerals in ancient Greece, there were professional roasters that got hired and came to the dead's funeral and let the community,
and mimicked and mocked the dead.
Mocked the dead and made jokes about the dead and
roasted the dead.
Let the community and the mourners vent the anxiety about death.
Which I want it to be known right now. Like when she was studying this earlier and told me about this, she said this was how she wants to be mourned when she dies. So consider this is it right here.
Take this to our lawyers when I pass away and
be
just
like,
say,
this is evidence.
This is evidence of what she wants.
She wants to be roasted.
I want to be roasted by like Anthony Jeselnik or something. Yeah,
your friends aren't good enough. We can't.
No,
roast
my
you?
friends too.
Whatever, dude. I want to roast you.
But I would maybe he can host. Yeah, he'll host. But we'll
get it on Comedy Central. Don't you worry. By that time, this podcast is going to be so huge. It's going to be an international affair.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be huge. And so we're going to have mourners from all over the world. And so we'll have Comedy Central roast your funeral.
Yes,
that'd be awesome.
Comedy Central roast.
And we'll have an open
funeral.
casket. It'd be the first open casket on Comedy Central. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I like it.
Absolutely. Prop me up and then like
beside the jukebox. If I die.
Yeah. Put me in compromising situations and poses. That would be great. But seriously though, like think about how valuable it would be and how cathartic it would be for your family and your friends and your loved ones at your funeral to hear kind of the raw truth or kind of these things about you that maybe everybody has kind of been thinking collectively, but no one has ever said. And they're kind of allowed to, they're kind of allowed to be the ultimate contrarian, which so vulnerable about something that's much bigger than yourself, right? So there's, the personal clowns, and then there's the clowns that kind of reflect on society. And we see a lot of that theme in it.
Well, it's kind of what a comedian is too, right?
Exactly.
Like a comedian plays that role as well, which is, when you're behind a microphone or you're behind
a mask
or you're behind makeup, you have the ability to say and do things that other people can't do.
Right. And you serve a purpose to other people, which is, wow, we all recognize the lines that he's crossing. And that actually reinforces societal norms. Like, oh, okay, we all understand that that's the wrong thing to do here, right? Okay, that was a weird thing. Okay, move on. That's funny. That's kind of the role that they play. And
yes, no, clown, you're not supposed to grab that woman's breasts.
No, but clowns.
We understand that's okay, but clowns can do it
because they can have like a ball in their pocket and then be like, and then people laugh. Ha! It's not, assault. No, I'm just kidding.
Did you hear that, clowns?
No, I'm not endorsing clown sexual assault.
Sex clowns.
There's a very interesting sex clowns website too. Just don't Google it.
Oh man, there was a great article you sent me.
Yeah, I sent you some great stuff.
Great article about a sex clown.
More about kind of the role of this jester in all kinds of cultures. Native Americans, the Hioka, that was their clown. It was he was actually considered to be one of the wisest people in the group because he kind of saw everything and then framed it in a way that everyone saw it. And it was simultaneously a little bit line crossing, but also very wise. Like pointing out things that might have been deeper than what anybody would be willing to risk to point out.
Right. Because at risk of offending or
questioning the status quo,
questioning something that's going on in their society or whatever's going on.
So these,
which is really interesting because that's so true.
Yeah, these gestures really play the role of questioning the status quo. Do we really want to be that clown? They're very played up, but do we really want to reflect that in ourselves in our everyday lives?
We'll start calling comedians just clowns,
right? Make me a bicycle clown.
Make me a bicycle clown.
Their role largely before the 1970s was to ensure that the community examined itself and to keep us from being too complacent, to remind us that in easy and hard times, what is truly valuable in very interesting ways that humiliate and also humble us. And that kind of causes a little bit of anxiety, like, we shouldn't be laughing right now. But it also forces us to confront that feeling of anxiety, especially as they go further into, their jesting.
It's one of the things going on in our culture right now is that there's a huge segment of society that doesn't like self-reflection. They don't like to look at the ugly things in culture and figure out ways to confront those things. They like to pretend like they don't exist,
right?
Or make them disappear. But they're there, and we need to confront them. And this is
whether or not we like it.
And this is one way that as a culture we can confront those things in a big way.
Absolutely.
We're always hearing about a comedian that gets in trouble for saying the wrong thing, and honestly, every time that they do that, I'm like sharing their stuff because I'm like, this person's that's the person I want to listen to because they're the ones who are crossing the lines. And when you cross the lines, you're making everybody stop
and discuss the line.
Absolutely.
Is the line where it really should be?
Why is that line there?
Why is that line there? So it's a very important role in society. And the more and more we become censored or unable to express those uncomfortable things in society, the more and more divided we become as a society.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It completely divides us. This confronting of things that bother us and confronting of issues that are difficult, especially by the role of a jester, really allowed the community to come together as a collective whole and make decisions.
Really interesting. What a great I'd never thought about that. I never thought about connecting those kind of dots to what a clown does and what that kind of person serves and how that person serves society.
Yeah. And now, unfortunately, that's not the role that clowns directly serve. And we can kind of relate that to a really funny clown named Gacy, who kind of ended the era of the lovable clowns.
Right. And we talked about Gacy last week. We all know who Gacy is. And we know why did that kill? It kind of killed the lovable clown in our conscious.
But what I don't think I expressed well or really understood until I kind of dived into it more was kind of the ramifications of his behavior were reflective of the moral panic that was occurring at the time. So we were seeing a lot of panic regarding homosexuality and HIV. We were seeing stranger danger panic. We were seeing the satanic panic during that time. And here came a clown wearing, small
society member guy,
child molesting and killing, also society member who owned a business,
mostly teenagers,
whatever, children. And the media really exploited his kind of juicy clown hobby, very Pied Pipery, like that's how he
be scared.
That's
be
how
aware.
he lured them in, was because he was like this Pied Piper clown, but he never killed in his pogo form.
No.
That would be breaking the code.
They do think that he did say that he put his clown costume on when he had people tied up like in the house to taunt them and do things to them.
Oh, gross.
Because he would keep them for days sometimes, and
But then after that, the
because I know that kind of stuff
because it's weird.
I'm weird.
The ramifications of that was like this phantom panic, this legend, especially in like April 1981, where virally back in 81, there was these reports of all these clowns and in towns and like hiding in bushes and chasing people with knives. And there was this clown panic.
Yeah.
Really
clowns
soon
without
after.
pants on.
There was a clowns without pants on report.
Yeah, there was a
There was a
clown
sex
without
clown
pants on.
report. in a city park.
Fun fact, not to take you off track real quick, but John Wayne Gacy used to pick up his victims across from my college.
Oh, that's
There's
terrifying.
a park right there that actually we kindly referred to as Gay Park.
Ooh,
because there was a lot of male prostitutes that used to hang out there.
That's very insensitive.
Well, it was true.
It was at the time. I know.
it was accurate.
I understand. But
but that was the reason why Gacy would go there, because Gacy definitely had that that latent, he had that what's the word I'm trying to look for? Repressed. Thank you. Homosexuality. And that was one of the, the things that fed this urge of his. And he even said that later on. Sure.
But then after Gacy, after this clown panic, we see the emergence of movies like Poltergeist and the 1986 book It, followed by the 1990s, TV series. And that in and of itself, those few years of high intensity hysterical panic about clowns and the perceptions of clowns changing. By 2008, we see a completely different view of clowns, and also a generational fear of the clown persona that really has informed our present notion of clowns.
Yeah, I mean, our kids don't now think of clowns in any way, but
they're not inviting anymore.
Creepy. They don't see them as like, oh, a clown is a fun thing to go see. And I mean, not that they wouldn't go to a circus and they'd get freaked out, but they don't think of clowns in like, I'm going to sit around and I'm going to have a clown for my birthday.
Right. No. Never happened.
Our 11-year-old who's obsessed with It right now, like he wants to watch the movie so bad, and I guess I'm probably gonna let him watch it. I think because he wants to see it so bad.
Dude, if he starts screaming things that Trash Mouse screams,
that's
like when he's on his Xbox, I'm like,
a little rough. But he's obsessed right now. Maybe he wants a clown for his birthday just for shits and giggles. That might be cool.
Yeah. But I
want a creepy clown for my birthday.
And right now, like we are all, the way that we picture clowns, the information that we've been given on clowns is that they creep us out more than they are enjoyable because they break social norms, they push limits. And there's two things that really, when we think of things that creep us out, we think of things that force communities apart because communities are meant to be together for their safety, right? So the things that drive people apart, that creeps us out. And the things that make us physically unsafe. So things that elicit the fear, flight, or freeze response. And our brain with clowns nowadays really wants to kind of assess the possible threat that they pose on us instead of seeing them as this joyful, knowledgeable, wise, even perceptive mirror of society.
So weird because that's totally not how they're viewed anymore.
No.
And I mean, I think I always look at it in context. I mean, I think like if you're in a circus, you might view clowns in one way. If you're at a rodeo, you might view a clown in one way. But I think by and large, most people nowadays, they think
scary clown.
They think of Pennywise. They think of the evil clown.
Even McDonald's has phased out.
Yeah, Ronald McDonald's been pretty much gone. We talked about that last
Ronald
week.
McDonald House is just a
silhouette.
A silhouette.
Yeah.
Because it's creepy.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that last week, but that's how the advertisers aren't going to do. They're not going to use a clown in their advertising if they're advertising, to kids or to, it doesn't have the same response anymore. Ronald McDonald House, it's like, oh, we're going to help the needy kids. Like, we're going to make them shriek in horror as our mascot comes in the room.
We'll remind them what's truly terrifying in life.
Mm-hmm.
But so I just wanted to preface all of our discussion about it because I'm going to bring a lot of this background knowledge into it and kind of how into it and how it uses that to achieve its goals and purposes.
Well, I think, thank you for that.
Sure. That was fun.
Yeah. And I think
go listen
it's really interesting. It's really interesting that how the cultural perspective of that and how that kind of relates to our modern day kind of jesters or comedians are.
Go listen to American Hysteria. A lot of my information
just
come
turned
from
you
there.
Onto that.
Amazing
last
podcast.
Night, right?
Amazing.
She just turned you on to that last night, didn't she? Very cool. So thank you, Creature, for giving you a new podcast to listen to.
Creature
As
feature.
if you didn't need a new one already.
I don't. You can never have too many podcasts.
Well, we are going to really dig in. We know that this Stephen King It thing is a cultural phenomenon. It has been for really for a couple of generations, but
especially nowadays with the current circus of politics.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Circus of politics right now. Yeah.
But I think that the new movie, the movie that came out in 2017 did fantastic. The release that just came out this week had so much buzz around it. My generation, anybody who grew up that was in there, anybody from like their, maybe late 20s to early 40s, this miniseries that came out in 1990 was a big deal. And my mom bought the book in 86 because it was sitting on our, it was around the house for as far back as I can remember. So the book was there. I read the book in high school. I think for a lot of people, it was the first introduction to horror, and is kind of the basis for a lot of our discussion about clowns, for this evil clown stuff. And it really was the thing that took it to the culture.
Absolutely.
Outside of Pogo the Clown and John Wayne Gacy and all that stuff, Stephen King's It was the thing. Now, last week we talked about Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and we talked about Terrifier, and there are so many other clown movies out there.
What was the one that you watched recently?
Well, I'll go ahead and talk about it now. I was going to wait until the next segment, but we'll just dive into it in the next segment. But I did want to mention this one because it was so fucking good. That I had never seen it before. And it's a movie from 2012 called Stitches. It was on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
It's on Netflix right now, but it's an Irish film. It is amazing. It's funny. It's freaking body horror, gory, great gore, good use of CGI, like really fun use of CGI.
Clowns.
Fantastic storyline about a clown, like a clown who gets killed by a bunch of kids, that comes back when they're in high school to inflict revenge, but it creates this whole mythos around clowns that like is the most unique story I've ever seen. And and uses traditional clown stuff, like uses clown gags in the kills. So he's like blowing up dude's head like a balloon. Like a balloon. He's the red nose. He tosses his red nose out and it goes sniffing around for his victims. He pulls a rabbit out of a dude's throat.
That was rad.
Stuff like that. I mean, it is just really smart and really well done. And honestly,
original, unique.
Went straight up to the top of like my favorite clown movies.
Like, nice.
I don't know if it's like my favorite, my like very top, but it is right there, man. It is so good. So Stitches 2012, check it out. I wanted to make sure I mentioned it because it was so deserving, and I wish we had a chance to kind of dive into it more. Maybe we will, down the line somewhere. But
we give it 2 meaty fear balls.
2 big old meaty clackers, man.
Big old meaty clacker fear balls.
So, but with that, we are going to go into our It Talk. So let's go into our, I guess we can call it honorable mention, but it's kind of all flowing together. So
yeah.
We're going to have the book. We're going to talk the miniseries. We're going to talk the 2 new movies. So let's talk our honorable mention. I guess the 1986 novel, It. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Drew.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Why, yes, I have.
When we were trying to get this podcast off the ground, we had a lot of questions. Like, how do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen to? How do we make money podcasting? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now just by reading this ad.
Right now?
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now?
That means if you want to get a podcast going and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. Join me and Chris and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. We can't wait to hear your podcast. So I'm staring at a Funko Pop of Pennywise and a, blind box character Pennywise thing that where you get the mystery little figurine that I bought the other day. And it blows me away what a phenomena this
clown
franchise is, right? I mean, and it really didn't become. I think we needed everybody who grew up in the 80s to get into their 30s for it to be like a giant thing again, right? Because we had this.
Do you find that weird?
We had this thing, right? This 1986 book that came out. So it came out when we were like 5 years old or 6 years old or 7 or wherever we were born, or maybe just born, like in your case. And then we had the miniseries that came out in 1990. So we had these two phenomena: the book, which most of us didn't find until we were in high school, or junior high or high school, and we have the miniseries, which so many of us like watched with our family in 1990 as 5-year-olds or 10-year-olds or whatever, however old we were, that introduced us to horror, right? That was our kinder trauma. That was our first introduction because it was accessible.
Yeah.
Right. It was on TV. It was right there. But I want to talk about those two things before we get into the new movies, because, the book is Stephen King's magnum opus. You've never read it.
No.
It's a daunting task.
Yeah, I don't know that I have the patience. It's
a daunting task. I mean, it's 1,138 pages. It's King's second longest book.
Damn, Gina.
And it's less than 20 pages
difference.
Shorter, than The Stand. So The Stand is 1,153. And King fans have always been kind of divided about this, right? They've always said you're either like a King It guy or a King Stand
I prefer
guy.
The Stand, or I prefer the King.
It seems like that's
not the King, the It.
The two camps, right? You're an It person, or you think The Stand is his best book.
Sure.
And I've always kind of leaned towards The Stand. The Stand, I read The Stand around the same time that I read another book called Swan Song. I was really into apocalyptic. I love the apocalyptic stuff. So I really liked those books, and they stuck out so much, but it was right there too. I mean, I was reading all of those. I really had a glutton for punishment apparently in high school, and I wanted to read 1,200 page books.
Do you find it odd that the release of It kind of coincided with the release of the newer version of It in 2017? That's almost 27 years.
Oh, I know. Right. That was crazy. Yeah. I think and what's funny is it was totally coincidental because they had been working on it for years and trying to get it like as a go, the new one.
But I find that funny because
it's
the
awesome.
Same theme of this childhood trauma that kind of follows us into adulthood now, and we're reconfronting it as different people, but also the same people.
And King himself called this book his final exam on horror. That was his quote, because it really is so vast and it encapsulates so much. And the book itself is not about, it's not a book about a clown. It's not a book about it's a book. It's not a book about a clown. It's a book about fear. It's a book about friendship. It's a book about the sins of the parents being visited upon their children, which is a very biblical concept.
Generational trauma.
Yeah, generational trauma. It's a book about loss of innocence, creativity, from childhood to adulthood, all these loss of innocence, loss of creativity, all these things that are really interesting themes that we see pop up as people, and I think this book encapsulates so many of those themes, which is why it's become so influential.
He did a great job at making it a metaphor for a lot of things so that it really hits home, aside from the fact that there is this creepy clown that chases some kids and then adults around, Yeah.
And so a couple of facts about this book. So it was written in it was written from 1981 to 1985, which was smack dab in the middle of Stephen King's cocaine years.
Oh, hey.
So from 78 to 86 is what we refer
Why wasn't
to
it
as
written
the
faster
cocaine
then?
years. He should have wrote it a lot faster.
Well,
yeah. While he was writing it, he was also writing Cujo, which he says that he does not remember writing. By the way, he literally says, "I do not remember writing Cujo."
Don't you want to be that good at something
right?
where you're like, I don't know, it sold millions of copies.
I was so drunk and
I never read it yet
that I don't even remember writing it.
Is it good?
But
I saw the movie.
It sold like 10 million copies.
I heard everybody hated the ending.
So he wrote during that time from 81 to 85, while he was writing he released Cujo, he released The Dark Tower, Gunslinger, the first book of the Dark Tower series. He released Pet Cemetery. It's a little book that some people have heard of.
Nah.
Christine, another little book turned
It's
movie.
on your shirt.
It is. Oh yeah, that's
it's
right.
on the very top.
Because John Carpenter directed it. This is a John Carpenter movie stack
VHS shirt.
from Studio House Designs. I think that's what it's called. Studio House. It's a rad shirt. It has all of John Carpenter's books. John Carpenter's movies stacked up like VHS on top of each other. Very cool. Yeah, Christine is one of them. The Talisman was another one, and The Cycle of the Werewolf. So he, during this time that he's writing this 1,200 page, tome about this clown and all this crazy shit going on, he's also publishing all this other stuff at the same time.
He was very productive.
Ridiculous. Cocaine, a hell of a drug. If you want to be successful as a writer and a prolific writer, you need to have a cocaine years.
No, don't do that.
No. Is that not? Should I not be promoting that?
No. That's not healthy.
I'm a writer. I'm trying to.
I know you're trying to find yourself.
Myself.
But let's not go down the Scarface path.
I'm gonna go mounds of cocaine to get better at my writing.
No.
Damn it.
For some reason, I feel like it will just be more disjointed.
So hey, have you read this book?
No, I know it's 85 or not 85. It's 50s and then 80s and then 50s and then 80s
and then turtles and then Indians, and Native Americans, and then the 1800s, and then
crazy crawling fortune cookies, and
yeah. There was a lot of drugs mixed into this. So if you want to be successcul, do drugs.
No,
come on,
that's not going to be a good
just
movement.
Have my public service announcement. I'm speaking to writers. Do you know what King's inspiration was for this, though?
No.
On his coke-fueled inspiration.
I can only imagine.
He was walking across a bridge, and he thought of the Norwegian fairy tale. One does. The Three Billy Goats Gruff, which Norwegian fairy tale that deals with a troll under a bridge, which I remember reading as a kid.
I don't remember what it was about, though.
There was a troll under a bridge, and Three Billy Goats Gruff had to come, and they had to pass, and the troll said, "You can't pass until you
pay the troll toll to get through this boy's hole."
Always sunny in Philadelphia.
Toll
if you want to get to that boy's hole. Damn it, that just relates so much to the weird shit in this book.
Right.
Damn it.
Sorry.
This is the second time we've recorded this section too, because we're both a little bit sick, so we're both in this weird fuzzy world.
It's pretty hazy. You got sick head.
So. But yeah, he saw the bridge and thought man, this would be a great time to write a alien entity takes over a town and lives underneath it in the sewers book.
Why not?
And by the way, he's also a clown, or likes to show himself as a clown.
Well, I mean, yeah, Gacy wasn't that much after that, or before that, I should say.
Well, yeah, but he says Gacy wasn't an inspiration. He has actually said that it was not an inspiration. It's got to be in there somewhere, though.
I mean,
he said he was most inspired by Bozo. And the clown from Howdy Doody, which was Clarabelle. And Clarabelle, look up Clarabelle. Clarabelle is a very creepy clown. That was Howdy Doody's like sidekick or mute partner, didn't talk. And that's who he got the inspiration.
Interesting.
Of Pennywise from those two clowns, kind of meshed them together.
And then added Coke.
Well, it was interesting too. And when Pennywise in the book first introduces himself to Georgie, right? He's in the sewer. Georgie comes and he's just, "Hi, Georgie," all that stuff. He says, he doesn't just say in the movies, it's just, "Hi, I'm Pennywise the clown," Pennywise the dancing clown. In the book, he says, "My name is Mr. Bob Gray, otherwise known as Pennywise the dancing clown," which I was like, where the hell? That's
why?
A weird thing. Who is this Bob Gray? Well, the theory is, and I didn't look into this super, super deep. It might be wrong. And again, if you're a Stephen King nut,
let us know. We're wrong,
because I will be wrong on lots of stuff. I'm not an expert on any of these topics, just so you know.
Not an expert.
But Robert Gray was an alias that was used by. See if I wrote this down here. Yeah, Robert Gray was used several times in the novel. And this might be an allusion to real life child cannibal. One of my favorite cannibals of all time, Mr. Albert Fish.
Oh yeah. He's a top 5 cannibal.
He's a top 5 cannibal.
At least.
For sure. Because he used that as one of his aliases, apparently.
Wow.
Which is really creepy.
That's
but it makes sense because Pennywise eats children. Albert Fish ate children.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
He also printed some recipes about how to cook your children.
Albert Fish did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like until the buttocks is,
That's right.
fully cooked through and juicy white.
Yes.
Like it was super
that's
creepy.
Right. What was it? What was the last podcast on the left said? What was the word they used for balls and penises? Do you remember?
Genitalia.
Oh my gosh, it was the funniest thing ever. Gosh, listen to the last podcast on the left episode of Albert Fish because it's quite entertaining for being about a child cannibal, a child murderer who.
Well, they do lighten things up.
Pee-wees and. Do you remember what it was?
No. Oh, it's monkeys and pee-wees.
Monkeys and pee-wees.
Give me some of those monkeys and pee-wees.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
Pretty close.
It's horrible. No, it is. It's pee-wees and monkeys.
Oh,
it's so weird and gross.
So, anyways, so creepy. that was so the book was based on that. The setting of the book was Derry, Maine, which is based on Bangor, Maine. Where kind of he decided it was a good working class town that just kind of fit what he was looking for the setting of this book. You were saying that there's been a big It celebration there this week. Yeah, from the Box of Oddities podcast, they live in Bangor, and they were saying that they have Bangor? This. Do they call it Bangor? I don't know. How do they refer to it as? Bangor. I've heard Bangor. Bangor. I don't know. I'll have to listen more closely. I mean, I've always heard it called Bangor, Maine because Destination Bangor, Maine. Worn out old suit and shoes. I don't pay no union dues. Perfect. King of the Road. King of the Road. I guess you're wondering. Oh, we were all wondering. No. They live in Bangor, and they said that in the days leading up to the premiere, people or probably advertisers for the movie have gone around Bangor and done some really really things, like tie a red balloon to a storm drain grate, and so much fun. Left little yellow boats around and gutter drains. Oh, that'd be so all kinds fun. Of stuff like that. So really kind of made it. Well, he lives there too, doesn't he? He lives somewhere nearby, and wasn't he there at the premiere there? Or something. Yeah, I think he was at the premiere there in town, and just hanging out, talking to the audience and giving a little talk before the movie came on. And his cameo in the movie was great. It was great. We'll get there. Everybody hated the ending. But so it's a self-referential. So anyway, so that's the book. And the book came out and it was a big phenomenon. Everybody read it. But let's dive into the first adaptation of this book, which came out in 1990. And that was the miniseries of Stephen King's It.
Why are you guys anywhere?
We're sort of a club. Yeah, the Losers Club.
You want in? Yeah, I do.
Hey, we're 7 now. Lucky 7. I want to kill it.
I just want to forget about it.
It's not just us. It's all the other kids, too. Who's going to be next?
It kills kids, damn it!
You killed my brother George, you bastard! Let's see you now.
Maybe it's the water.
The water? Maybe it's the sewer.
Hiya, Georgie.
real! They're not real!
Was it Pennywise?
Big white guy, red nose, about 75 feet tall, mouth full of razor sharp teeth.
You smell that? That's death. Losers fight it. Losers die.
They all flow!
And see, everybody saw this when they were young, and I never saw it when I was young.
You were deprived.
I mean, I had like maybe snippets of it, if it was on like a rerun somewhere, maybe I passed by it, but it always just didn't interest me. I was like, nah, I'm good. And I would pass it up. So I didn't really get introduced to it
Did you not
until
like Clowns?
recently.
Was this, or did you just not think it was worth your time?
Both. Like one of those, like, what would I rather be doing with my time right now?
Well, I remember, and this is the same way with The Stand. I don't know if we just watched a shit ton of TV when I was a kid. We must have, because I don't remember missing any major. I don't remember missing any major events when it comes to television that everybody references. Like, oh my gosh, like, do you remember that thing?
Like, yeah, I totally saw
it.
Yeah,
I watched all of those. So,
wow.
So when this came out, we watched it as a family, and I remember it very well because I was, 9 years old. So I was like the perfect
ripe age,
perfect age for this kind of thing, and a rewatch of it, it's dated,
it's super
Bill's ponytail,
a little cheesy.
Bill's ponytail's a little rough. Some of the special effects are a little rough, but
some of the music montages
are a little rough. But at the same time, you have to put it in context, right? And I still love it. I still love what it did for everybody to kind of introduce them to this story. It was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, who did the much maligned Halloween 3, which has now become a major cult classic. Like it's almost like some people's favorite Halloween movie now, even though it has nothing to do with Michael
Absolutely
Myers.
Nothing.
And I love it too. 6 more days till Halloween, which is great. Season of the Witch. And then he also directed Fright Night 2, which I can say that I have never seen, but I actually
did. You buy it?
I have it. Yeah, I think I bought it last week.
Nice.
In the I go to the used bookstore
and they have DVDs for great prices.
3 for like $10, and like if I see something I might want to check out, I grab it. And he also edited the original Halloween and the original Fog, which is also
nice.
on my
Both
shirt.
of them.
Yeah, those are on my shirt. Oh, my Halloween's on my shirt.
Yeah.
Too. But it was starring Tim Curry, which you cannot fucking go wrong.
Icon
with Tim Curry.
He looks so good in makeup.
Amazing. And you know what's funny? One of the things he said when he got this role was he told them that he did not want to do a lot of makeup.
Whoops.
And he was like,
no,
in makeup the
entire time.
The whole time, and like long like process of putting the makeup on and all that stuff. It also starred Harry Anderson, who was a fantastic comedian, who passed away not too long ago. And I always remember him because he was on Night Court, the show Night Court. And I really liked that show. I was a big sitcom kid. I watched every sitcom.
You watched everything.
I watched everything. I really did. I was like Mikey TV from fucking.
Oh no!
From Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
You would be Mikey.
Wasn't it Mikey? That was
yeah.
His name, right?
I seen everything. Pew pew pew.
I know every commercial, every jingle. But Harry Anderson. The thing I also remember is my parents. One of their best friends used to manage I can't remember if it's the Comedy Store or the Laugh Factory, but one of the big LA comedy places. And they always said that their favorite person was Harry Anderson. He was the nicest person. He was the sweetest to the staff. He tipped them the best. He was one of the nicest people. And that Jay Leno was a giant asshole. And that David Letterman was very nice.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah. So there you go. And then it also starred John Ritter, who again died way too young and way early and very tragically.
Wasn't he known in Hollywood for being very kind as well?
Also very kind. Yeah. Another person that people always used to heap praise on as being just a really sweet person, really good person. Obviously Three's Company, we know Problem Child, all those things that we saw him in growing up.
He was a great dad.
And then the kids, had the kids in the movie. You had Jonathan Brandis, who was kind of a teeny bop star that was on the front cover of a lot of like Tiger Beat magazine and shit like that, who also died very tragically. Him and John
seeing
Ritter,
a connection.
Him and John Ritter both played Bill, and they both died in 2003. And Jonathan Brandis committed suicide, hung himself in his apartment stairwell.
Oh no!
Like outside of his apartment, which is really crazy.
Oh my gosh!
Very sad, very tragic. And then Seth Green played Richie. And
so weird.
That guy went on to do nothing else.
All I can hear is Robot Chicken.
Every voice on Robot Chicken.
Every voice.
So it had a really interesting cast. And I think they did a really good job, especially for the time, for when it came out. And again, it was one of those miniseries that just stuck in everybody's head. And it
left a lasting impact.
We watched it today, and I had already watched it once this week. So I've watched it twice this week. So I've gone through 6 hours of the 1990 miniseries this week. And it's, like we said, it's definitely dated. But it deals with it manages to tiptoe around the material really well. And I think for the time it came out, it dealt with some stuff head on, the racial stuff and some of those things. It kind of dealt with those things kind of head on.
That were also relevant to the time.
Absolutely. But it obviously excluded some things that probably could have been in, that I think the new movies brought in a little bit better. Were able, because of the time, because it was a made for TV movie in prime time, that they couldn't exactly, have Richie talking about dick size and, making the jokes he was making and all that kind of stuff. And the
doing
language.
Your mom.
It did the best it could for the time that it came out. One thing I kind of
pat on the little head.
The very beginning of the movie is a scene that's not even in the book. So the little girl, and she's driving her little tricycle.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed that I'd never noticed before was that it's raining out, right? And she's singing "The Itsy Bitsy Spider Went Up the Water Spout." It ends obviously with
"Down Came the Rain."
But it ends with the creature turning into
a spider,
which is kind of it's
gross.
It's like they call that like his natural form or whatever is the spider. They think that's like that's when he's showing his true self.
Ugh.
It's the spider form, right? We know how much you love spiders. No, but I thought that was a really nice touch that I had never noticed before. That she was singing that before she got murdered. And then it covers the cops like covering up the disappearances and that stuff in the beginning of that as well, which didn't really get into much in the new movies.
It was much more popular in the 90s to cover up for cops than, it's still popular nowadays. But.
So I'm not gonna break down the storyline at all,
because we're gonna get so deep into it.
We're gonna get
so deep.
We're gonna get
fear balls deep.
Thank you. Fear balls deep into this story. But I did want to mention these two things: the book and the miniseries are what really inspired all of these remakes.
It's what made these remakes
and
possible.
What made my childhood.
Oh,
when I picture the scene with Georgie, I still see Tim Curry's face, and Tim Curry did such an excellent job as Pennywise, and he was very traditional clown,
right?
Which what's funny is, I don't think traditional clown would have worked in the new movie.
No, I don't think so
because
either.
nobody thinks of traditional clown. They just think of scary clown.
Right.
So they don't think Bozo anymore. So Bozo can't be the basis for the clown. It has to be something else.
Right. Otherwise it's too comical and you won't take it seriously. But he also wants to be disarming enough to where you kind of second guess yourself, like, oh, but it's a clown, right? Like they're good.
And Tim Curry just does a bang up job, like just so good.
He looks so good in makeup.
That Tim Curry does is amazing, and he's such an icon. And it's sad he's kind of in deteriorating health these days. I think he was in a wheelchair. I think he had
poor guy.
I'm pretty sure he had a stroke. I think a number of years ago.
Wow.
But he did so many cool, so many amazing characters.
Such an icon.
That just like were the characters that we remember from being a kid. But let's dive into what everybody has been watching this week, which is our remakes are, what do you want to call
The
them?
new chapters.
The new chapters, the
new chapters.
The modern
movies.
Chapters. So we'll start with chapter 1 because we want to dive into this one first. So let's roll the trailer on 2017's It Chapter 1.
When you're a kid, you think the universe revolves around you. You think that you'll always be protected and cared for. Then, one day, you realize that's not true. Because when you're alone as a kid, the monsters see you as weaker. You don't even know they're getting closer. Till it's too late. Here. Take it.
My grandfather thinks this town is cursed. That all the bad things that happen in this town are because of one thing. An evil thing.
Bill, if you'll come with me, we'll float too.
Georgie. I saw something.
The clown. Yeah, I saw him too.
We'll float too.
What happens when another Georgie goes missing? Or one of us?
We'll float too.
Are you just gonna pretend it isn't happening like everyone else in this town? If we stick together, we'll win.
So 2017's It Chapter 1 was where we got started on these remakes a couple years ago. And you had not seen it until recently.
Right. This week.
A few weeks ago. Well, a few weeks ago, I showed it to you for the first time.
Right.
We were like, okay, we're doing Fear of Clowns. You got to watch it. How have you not watched it yet? And I went and saw it in the theater, I think.
Yeah.
Who did I go with? I don't remember. How did you not go with me?
I don't know. I think you went by yourself, maybe.
I might have, actually.
Yeah.
But so you had just seen it for the first time and you fucking loved it.
Oh, I feel like they slam dunked the butt fucking brains out of the first chapter.
Jeez. Language.
I can't describe how good I felt like the first one was.
You were a big fan.
I was a really, really big fan.
So 2017, we got this part 1, directed by Andy Muschietti, where we mostly focused on, in fact, we completely focused on the kids.
The kiddos,
so the book goes back and forth. So the book goes kids, adults, kids, adults, kids, adults. And we have all these, and we have little side stories that come up, and little side characters. Like there's a lot about the bully, Patrick. There's a bunch about
the pharmacist's daughter.
Yeah. I mean, various characters pop up and they have longer segments in the book, but mostly it goes kids, adults, kids, adults. So the whole thing. So the big battles at the end against it, the creature, happen at the end of the book for both the kids and the adults.
That's weird.
So for us though, watching the movies, if you haven't read the book, you're getting this stuff that happened as the kids.
It's chronologically.
Right. And then then the second one is going into what happened as the adults.
Sure.
Although a lot more flashing back to the kids than probably should have taken place.
Well, and I love how this one did do that because it really emphasizes the beginnings of fear, kind of the roots of fear, where it starts, what it does once it gets implanted into our psyches.
Well, let's break down, because I want you to talk about everybody's fear in this book, because you have kind of a good psychological perspective on each individual character. The movie starts out with, Bill is sick. He's up in his bedroom. He doesn't want to go outside and play with Georgie. And Georgie wants to go play with his little toy boat, right? So Bill helps him,
make it, but he's like, nah, I'm not going to go outside.
Seal it up. I'm not going to go outside. We've all seen this scene, right? And Georgie opens the basement door, goes down and gets all the stuff that he needs to make his boat, and then goes and runs outside, and he's all excited in his little yellow slicker and lets the boat go down the gutter, and then it goes down. Then he face plants into in the movie. He face plants into there's some Schadenfreude there. I don't know why. Like, it's just like kid going. I think it was on the Horror Virgin that somebody was like, I really thought that was hilarious. Like him just hitting that caution.
It was so unexpected, and I wonder why.
And now I can't watch it without laughing at that. But I didn't even think about it the first time.
I wonder what the purpose of that was, because I mean, it served a function, or else he wouldn't.
That's how he didn't catch up to the boat.
Oh, because
that's right. He hit that, and that's what delayed. He
made him
running
late
after the boat, and it made him not be able to grab it before it went down in the sewer.
Okay.
So then he goes and he meets Pennywise, right? Pennywise, I'm Pennywise the dancing clown, and they start chatting. But
it's really interesting when you first see Pennywise here. His eyes are yellow. As he begins talking to Georgie, his eyes transfer to blue, which is actually Bill's eye color.
So it's changing, but it's changing from something alien to
something more familiar,
human, right? Because that's his MO, is to try to draw you in,
to be alluring.
He's going to draw this kid into his mouth.
Kind of like that idea of like that which is most familiar is also most terrifying, but also alluring,
right?
At the same time.
So at first he's like stranger danger, right?
Yeah,
like because it's the 80s, so he's stranger dangering.
We need to talk about that. How this one was set in the 80s,
right? And not in the right. So the original, so the book, some of you may know, but the book was set in the kids were in the 50s and the adults were in the 80s. The movies, they moved everything up. So the kids were in the 80s and the adults are now in like present time. So Georgie, we all know, gets his arm gnawed off, gets pulled down the sewer and becomes Pennywise food.
Nom nom.
Feeds the it. Then we flash forward. We're like 18 months. Is it 18 months?
18 months, I think.
Anyway, we're at school in
Last
Derry,
day of school.
Derry, and then we meet all of our cast of characters, right? So we have Bill. He's our stuttering, nice brother to Georgie. Made him a boat. He's our very like, what's the word I'm looking for? He's kind of our leader,
responsible older brother.
He kind of becomes the leader. Then we have Beverly. She is in the first scenes of the movie. She's called a slut. She's called trash by these bitchy friends. Greta, who's the daughter of the pharmacist. She gets trash dumped on her head in school. Just gross scene. And she's called Beaverly because they're trying to make her out to be this big slut. Just the outcast. She's smoking cigarettes in the bathroom. Then we have Ben. Ben's the new kid. He's the fat kid. Listens to New Kids on the Block, which is not going to get you a lot of friends in whatever junior high but
he does him, and I love that.
He does him. That's cool. Then we have Stanley. Stanley's Jewish. He's a rabbi's son, but can't even recite the Torah, so not a very good rabbi's son. Then we have Eddie. Eddie's got our overbearing mom, who's also extremely overweight. And Stephen King spends a lot of time talking about how grotesquely overweight she is because he loves to give just very long descriptive terms about weight. He's got a weight thing.
Yeah. We should go into that, like why.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. And nipples. And he loves nipples.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves descriptive long
nipples?
descriptive talk about nipples.
Long
and nipples
descriptive
leading
nipples.
to emotions. I don't know what that is about either.
Huh.
Which comes up in the new movie.
Because that's the seed of emotions
that we just saw.
Is the nipples.
And then we have Richie. Richie is
Trash Mouth.
Everybody's favorite character. Trash Mouth. He's our loudmouth. He's funny.
That's me. I'm Trash Mouth.
He's the defense mechanism comic.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey.
And then we have Mike. Mike's the African-American kid, homeschooled, not, kind of the last to join the group. Yeah, I think he was new in town too, wasn't he?
No, he was the
wasn't. No, he
homeschool
wasn't.
kid.
That's right. He's been around a long time because that's right.
His parents,
dad dealt with some of the tragedies. And then we have Henry Bowers and his band of bullies that are just a bunch of assholes. We can get through this episode, Chris.
We can do it.
We can do it. Yeah, so a bunch of assholes. So that's kind of our main core group of characters,
losers,
right? Outside of Pennywise, who's our it creature, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about later as to what that is exactly. But tell us a little bit about our cast of characters and what is psychologically, what are all these guys going through? We also call these guys our so Bill, Beverly, Ben, Stanley, Eddie, Richie, and Mike are what we call the Losers Club.
Yeah.
Right? Because they all get together and form this band of merry dysfunctional misfits.
Yeah. And one thing that's shared by all of them and also the community at large is this idea of shared traumas and what each of them does in terms of coping or repressing or acknowledging or taking action against letting the trauma or abuse cycle in their own lives and also in their town continue. So, for instance, when we look at Bill, does it in the book talk about why Bill stutters? Like what might have caused his stuttering?
I don't think it does, because I'm pretty sure he stuttered before Georgie's death.
Yeah.
So I think it was just something that he had. Like my dad was a stutterer growing up. Big time. Still stutters every now and then. Like even now, he'll still get caught up on an S or something. But when he was a kid, it was like debilitating. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think it's just something that he had.
Okay. I was just curious. If
very common, very educated people or people who are very intelligent who think
highly intelligent.
They think before their mind is moving too fast for their lips.
Right. So Bill, he really, his fears ultimately boil down to the fear of addressing his own grief about the responsibility of Georgie's death.
Right.
Like, was I responsible for this? Should I have done more? Could I have done more? Really carrying around that weight. So that's this burden that he kind of carries throughout the story.
By the way, we're kind of answering this question because of our podcast. This is what we want to talk about. We want to talk about what makes these guys afraid.
Right.
Just like and because this whole movie is about fear.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
It's very fear-based. This is a really perfect movie for what we talk about.
I did not realize what this movie was truly about when I've seen it before, or not seen it before, but like when I had heard of it before, I didn't realize that it was really about trauma.
And so psychological. Yeah. It has so much about how everything preys upon our, insecurities.
How your
and our
fears prey upon your insecurities and on, on dividing you from other people and making you feel alone, because then it can really feed on you.
So tell us about Beverly.
So Beverly, her fear, or I'm going to say trauma that she is kind of working through, is of course her sexually and physically abusive dad, and emotionally abusive dad. She also is working through the grief of the loss of her mom. And her dad is kind of making her assume the role of the wife.
Right. It even gets even more creepy in the book.
Yeah.
Too. I know there's a lot about like smelling her and
they did that.
And I know some of that was in the movies as well.
Yeah. And so then we look at Eddie. Eddie's is of course his mom's enmeshment with him, because his dad actually left them. And so she is very enmeshed in him and very preoccupied with him becoming ill. I'm not sure. Did he leave or did he get sick and die?
I'm not sure.
So
what did they say? He died of cancer?
Cancer. Yeah.
Cancer was.
I think so. And so he too is dealing with some grief, and the mom is dealing with her grief reaction, which looks like being overprotective and controlling and trying to kind of head off the disease of the past.
What was that show that was so popular on Hulu recently about the mom who over medicated her daughter and all that stuff?
Oh gosh.
What was that called? I cannot remember the name of it.
Me either.
But that's what and
Munchausen,
basically, right? I mean, that's what this mom had, because she kept going to, and the book kind of draws that out more than the movies even do. But she was making up diagnoses for him and making sure that he was medicated for them. And that's why the pharmacist was like, I'm just going to give him placebos because he doesn't have any of this shit.
Exactly. And so that was kind of something that was his trauma. We may not think of that as trauma, but trauma means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I don't know.
That's pretty traumatic to me.
I would be traumatized, but that might not be like the first thing we think of, when we think of trauma. We don't think of like, oh, my mom, overly took me to the doctor's office, when really, when we look further at the purpose behind it and also the damage that it does to the child and the child's psyche and the child's ability to trust.
Well, we see it as he got older, in the second movie and stuff, but we also see that in the book. He's constantly trying to, still doing the same stuff.
Yep. We see those same patterns.
Still dealing with the same thing, like medicating himself, and feels like he has all these afflictions and ailments.
Well, and also
he's a risk management guy.
It colored the way that he chose his career, and we do see that with the other members of the Losers
And I can't
Club.
remember if that was actually in the book or not, but
I don't know either.
But
I've never read it.
It was a nice take in the movie. I can't remember if it was in the book.
So far, lots of grief, right? Loss of family, loss of independence, loss of control, loss of primary caregivers. Then we see Ben. Ben comes in. He is really the most uncomfortable in his own skin. And that kind of is his trauma, is that he is so uncomfortable in his own skin. Even though he knows who he is, he knows he's a good person. He knows he's sweet. He knows he likes New Kids on the Block. He knows
very intelligent.
He's very intelligent.
Researching, crazy. I relate the most to Ben.
Right.
Because he's like into history and he's into researching stuff way beyond his years. Like,
right.
I used to do that stuff like in junior high. I was like reading weird, long academic texts because I liked them. I really enjoyed like weird stuff, like weird research on historical things.
And so that made him just a little bit different and a little bit outside. And I think that's the thing that he struggled with coming back in through his adulthood still, is that idea that he still felt uncomfortable in his own body and in his own self, even though he knew who he was. So that was kind of his trauma that he works through during this story.
Richie, what do we have for Richie?
Richie Trashmouth, in the movie, it appears to be his repressed sexuality.
Right. And I think in the books, it was kind of alluded to. And there's always been this like, did Richie really have the hots for Eddie? Kind of thing. It was never explicitly said. But I think the movie kind of made it more explicit that the Richie character, that was what was going on. He was really dealing with this repressed kind of homosexuality and his feelings towards Eddie, or maybe bisexuality, who knows, but feelings towards somebody, his sexuality in general. And then the bullies called him a faggot and all these things and all these words, right? So there was something there. And I think that was in the book as well, there was this like sense that maybe that was what was going on, but nobody was really sure because it wasn't explicitly laid out.
Right. And I think too, beyond that, we can also see that Richie's how he copes with his trauma is through humor.
Defense mechanism comic.
Yeah, he is.
I don't know anything about that.
Is the jester, and I find it really funny that his fear is the clown.
In the movies, I don't remember that in the books. I think in the books he was the one that got attacked by the werewolf as his fear.
Interesting.
Because I think they went to go see a werewolf movie, and I think it was a werewolf that was his first kind of thing. But I could be wrong. There could be a part in there where he also talks about fear of being afraid of clowns too. But I liked that they did that in the movie.
Yeah, I found it really interesting because it was.
I could be totally wrong. I could be forgetting.
It was holding.
It's a big ass long book. I'm not sure if you know, but it's 1,128 pages.
It was holding a mirror to Richie and saying, you are the clown. Do you like this about you?
So if Stephen King didn't write that into the book, he probably should have.
Yeah.
So that's always a good.
I didn't like the ending anyway. So. But and then we have Mike, who again, grief and responsibility for his parents' death.
In the movie, because that did not appear in the book. That was definitely something that was a difference between the book and the movie. Was Mike's parents in the book Mike was his dad had survived the
fire
arson
at the Black Spot,
which was a nightclub for like African Americans that was torched by the KKK back when I almost said Twisty, back when Pennywise was doing all of his stuff 27 years ago.
Right.
But his dad had survived, and his parents had survived. They weren't dead. And his dad actually picked fights with Henry Bauer's dad. And there was this whole storyline about Mike's dad. So I thought it was kind of weird that they made Mike's parents these like supposed like crackheads who had killed them, who had died in a fire, and he was the only survivor, and then he got adopted.
As opposed
in the movie, that was a whole, that
as
didn't
opposed
even come
to a
out.
more racially tense, representation where somebody intentionally, which is more consistent with the themes that we see in Derry when Pennywise comes around, is that there's interpersonal
we see all of these
violence
things going on in the city and
Right.
the town and stuff. I thought it was kind of weird that they changed Mike's
It was
storyline that
interesting,
way.
but
and made him
really-
this orphan.
Either way, like Mike's trauma is his generational racial trauma
Sure.
that he's experienced.
Sure.
So that's his trauma that he's
the
carrying.
outsider. He's an outsider. He's the homeschooled kid too, so he's not going to school, with everybody else, and so he's kind of this outsider kid, and he's also the black kid, in a predominantly white neighborhood, and all those kind of things. for sure.
And then last but not least was Stan. And Stan was kind of the last one that I was able to put my finger on what might be his kind of trauma or thing that he's carrying around that Pennywise can capitalize on. And we talked about it today. And finally, I think I've kind of come to realize that his trauma was that pre-fear feeling. He was so afraid.
He was afraid of being afraid.
Yeah, and he was so afraid of unpredictability. And I know
he was kind of a perfectionist. I think he wanted to be like, he felt like he had to fix everything around him, or be like, or not put himself in a position that might not be.
It had to be highly predictable. Everything
Right.
in his life had to be
Right.
predictable. I mean, in the movie, they're talking, he and his wife, or in the second part, are talking about how she's like, "Oh, are you sure you want to take this trip? I know it's spur of the moment, like, oh, okay, I'm buying it. We're fucking wild,
Yeah, we're going crazy.
Yeah,
'cause
going crazy.
He
His environment is completely
his dad
tied up.
wanted him to be this very strict Jewish, upbringing, and he apparently had not been very good at reading the Torah and doing the things he was supposed to do to get ready for his bar mitzvah, and all of these things. So you see a lot of that kind of very strict, kind of stringent moral upbringing that I think maybe affected him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And he truly craves predictability. And that's a problem when you consider that its main function is to be unpredictable and to be subjective and to be ambiguous and to cause those feelings. And so to have an entity that in itself is prepared to cause you that anxiety is terrifying if you come at it from Stan's standpoint and from his kind of fear of dropping the ball, or fear of unpredictability, fear of not being ready, and so we see all these heavy trauma themes. We also know that when it comes to trauma, repetition breeds familiarity. So these things from childhood get repeated over and over, these patterns, and then we tend to, as we're familiar with them, find things in our adult lives that are synchronous with those things and kind of repeat the cycle, because those things are familiar to us. Even if they're harmful, at least they're familiar. So these cycles repeat. Mostly in part 2 is when we kind of see them repeating in the adult world, but we see how Pennywise takes advantage of each one of their own individual subjective traumas, and also uses it to divide the group from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the whole point of this, right? That this is a what's the word I'm looking for?
allegory, not allegory,
enemy,
a metaphor.
An enemy. I'm trying to think of what Pennywise. What would you call Pennywise? Pennywise is the antagonist, right?
Yeah.
Of this enemy, and then he preys on fear. That's the point of, he talks about how children taste better when they're afraid. So he has evolved over these billions of years
to fuck with them,
to figure out the best way to make them scared, right? So that's the best way to make them afraid. If you don't know, the it creature is an alien. It's an ancient alien. It's this monster, and it came to Earth billions of years ago, or a billion years ago, or whatever, on a spaceship, and landed on Earth, and then became part of this kind of ecosystem, and appears every 27 years to feed, and then goes back into whatever, hibernation. I guess.
He is absolutely a metaphor for the way that traumas transform in our lives, and they tend to linger, often hiding, kind of disguising in the monotony of everyday life until something triggers them, the awakening.
Sure.
Something wakens them up and they come back to feed on your emotions and flood your brain with all of these old feelings.
So we see, and we're this is going to be a long episode, and we apologize already in advance. But we see in this first movie, we see this band of young kids. By the way, Richie, who plays, what's his name?
Finn Wolfhard.
Who plays Richie. Fucking great.
Also a great porn name.
Sophia, it would be a great porn name. Sophia Lillis, who plays Bev, also really, really
fantastic.
Good. Honestly, every kid role is really well done.
Yeah.
Like the kids outact the adults from part 2. Like, whoo.
They knocked it out. The first one
knocked it out of the park. For sure.
In terms of telling the story and kind of gearing it up. Although when we get to part 2, we'll kind of talk about maybe what we wish they would have added in the first one.
Yeah. And I think so, we're not gonna be able to get through like walking through this movie, but we see these kids going through, most of you have probably seen it. And if you haven't, go see it and check it out. And then you'll know the storyline, but they go through this bonding experience where they're dealing with the bullies at school. They're dealing with their own individual fears that Chris just talked about. They're dealing with, and then they are dealing with this entity, this alien, this thing that's coming at them and presenting them all individually with their fears. Right. So we see, Eddie, who's the hypochondriac, Pennywise comes to him as a leper.
Yeah.
Because because that's like the dirtiest possible thing that, Eddie could possibly come in contact with. Right. So he comes as a leper first, and then he shows him his form as Pennywise. He comes to Bill as like his brother, right?
Yeah.
Draws him in as Georgie, right? And then appears to him. He comes to Richie as a clown,
yeah,
right? Because he's scared of clowns in the movie. He comes to Stanley as, what did he come to Stanley as? I don't remember. Oh, Stanley was the lady. That was my
the horrible lady.
That was my scary one. The scariest one for me in the first movie was the lady in the picture. The very creepy kind of surrealist.
Right.
And you had an interesting take on that. You thought that was because she just is not quite right. So he didn't like it because she's surreal. She's very not the way she's supposed to be.
That's where I got kind of the idea that maybe Stan's thing is order and disorder, in terms of his kind of traumatic.
When he walks into his dad's library, what's the first thing he does?
The first thing is he looks at a picture and he adjusts it so that it's straight. And then he steps back and he makes sure it's straight. So it was like he's very like buttoned up. You know?
He needed to make sure. It was like he was like had that like OCD a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
and that woman, her face was distorted and disorganized.
It wasn't right.
And it
wasn't
was not right. So I'm wondering if that's how they that's how it was kind of meant to be.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've not heard that perspective. I think that's spot on. I mean, it really is. And then he comes to Mike as the first time Mike sees him was as a clown too, as he's getting beat up by the bullies.
And that was one of my favorite parts when Bill Skarsgård waves the arm of Georgie,
Georgie.
at him
Mike,
and has this big ass smile on his face.
And then he comes to Bev, mostly in the form of her dad, or as
blood.
The blood and the stuff that comes up in the bathroom. That was the first time she had the experience of all of those things. And she experiences this crazy scene, right? Where the blood comes up out of the sink, covers the entire bathroom. Dad comes in and doesn't see any of it. He's just like, what's going on? What's wrong with you? Because there's a very big, important point about the adults versus the kids in this town. The adults, whether it's the grasp of the entity or what it is, but they don't see what's going on. And then they actually turn a blind eye.
They refuse to acknowledge it.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's whether it's a kind of a commentary about kind of the sins of the father kind of going on to the children, that kind of idea. But we definitely see multiple times where things are taking place right in front of the adult's eyes, and they are willfully shutting the door and making sure that they are not acknowledging it.
Yeah.
And we see that that's influenced by the creature. In some scenes, like the one where Ben is getting Henry is
carved.
The bully is carving into Ben's stomach, right? And the car drives by and the people just turn away and don't pay attention. And then the balloon
not my problem.
Balloon comes up in the back seat. So we know that they're influenced by this evil.
Well, we know that they're perpetuating the cycle too. Yeah. They're behaving from a place of fear that has disconnected them from the ability to want to help in any of those situations. Yeah. They would rather just, nope, not today, Satan.
There's a quote that Bill says, Derry is it, and it is Derry.
Oh, damn.
So that's the concept, right? That the town has been taken over by this entity, and that the adults have turned a blind eye to all of the crazy shit that's going on. The fact that these kids are all missing all the time, and there's just violence and there's hatred, racism,
bullying,
homophobia, all of these things that are going on, hate crimes and all this stuff.
Well, and that connects to everybody on a very regressive and raw level. It hits right where many of us have been hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So obviously we're not gonna be able to get through all of the first movie and kind of giving the synopsis of it. But basically the kids battle the creature, right? They battle the bullies, they battle the creature, they battle their own demons at home. And then ultimately at the end, we see this like temporary victory over Pennywise the clown.
Right. They think they've kind of beaten it down and kind of battled it into its own lair again.
Yeah, but they also, they come out, and this is where we go into our preteen orgy that we talked about at the beginning. That doesn't happen in the movies. But in the book, they are down in the sewers and they're trying to get out. And for some reason, Bev decides she needs to have sex with all of them. Everybody in the Losers Club.
What the fuck, Stephen King?
To win the battle against Pennywise.
To solidify.
But again, like
their transition to adulthood.
It's symbolic, right? Because we see this like there's a lot of emphasis on childhood to adulthood. Loss of innocence.
Yeah.
And this is kind of symbolic of that. But then what we see in the movies is they come out and they have this like blood oath, right? They take this blood oath. They cut their hands and they make the pact with each other that they are going to, if this ever comes back, we're going to come back here and we're going to take care of it.
Which is really interesting because like if you think about actual trauma, if you did that, like, okay, if this ever comes back up for us, we will all come together and address this together. This trauma. That's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and then because they know, right? They know that they're the ones who have battled this thing probably more than anybody else has. And they know that if this comes back up into this town, we're just going to see more missing children. We're going to see more.
Well, it's just the cycle's going to repeat itself.
The cycle's going to repeat, right? It's repeated they've figured out this cycle is repeated for generation and generation and generation. So they have taken it upon themselves to come be the crusaders that are going to snuff this thing out next time around.
Right. And there is a theory that although it was here billions of years ago, that it was not capable of truly existing or being active until humans came around, because humans have the relational aspect, and also
how did it feed?
And also the ability to feel fear beyond just like a startle.
Well, but
reaction.
It doesn't say that he has to have fear. He doesn't have to have fear to eat. He just likes it better.
Yeah.
It just tastes better. It tastes better when they're fearful.
Makes the meat taste better.
That's right. That's what he says. So, I wonder how he ate before, and again, we're talking some coked out Stephen King stuff here that involved, there was a brother that he had, that this it creature had, that was a turtle named Maturin.
Something like that.
That comes up in some of his other novels as well, in the Dark Tower series, that, is like the antithesis of it.
He barfed out
He's
the
like
world.
the good, it's like the good versus evil. It's like God and Satan kind of concept.
Yin and yang.
That comes into play in the book as well, which I thought was going to come into play some in the second movie. But
everybody said that the second movie was so bonkers, and I'm like, fuck yeah, we're going to see some weird turtle shit.
And there was like one turtle reference.
Yeah, and it was,
There's more turtle references, I think, in the first one.
Yeah, right.
Chapter 1. So let's get into, so we end the movie with
the blood oath.
Pennywise crawling back into the well,
kind of falling apart a little bit,
going down into the sewers, falling apart a little bit. Definitely took a shot, the kids
losing his power,
losing some of his power, because the kids took back their, basically weren't afraid of him and was stood up to him, had this moment, and then took this oath. And then we kind of see this movie end, and we set ourselves up for chapter 2. So let's dive into it. The new movie, because I know that's what everybody just went and saw this week. Really enjoyed it. Went and saw it last night. So let's play the trailer for It Chapter 2, 2019.
Something happens to you when you leave this town. The farther away, the hazier it all gets. With me, I never left. I remember all of it.
To the losers.
We made an oath.
I swear. If it isn't dead, if it ever comes back, we'll come back to you.
We didn't stop it.
Pennywise.
The clown.
We can't let it happen again.
Hello?
Kid!
Hello?
Kid! Hello. For 27 years, I dreamt of you. I craved you. I missed you.
We need to finish it. For good.
I've seen all of us die. It consumes us from the inside until we don't have a choice anymore.
You lied. And I died. You lied! And I died!
All right. So the long-awaited second chapter of this movie came out this week. We ran out and saw it with some friends last night. I'm still processing it. I really have struggled with this episode, and you've probably heard that we're struggling a little bit with this episode because there's a lot to cover here.
There's a lot to unpack.
It's a lot to unpack. And we normally go kind of step by step through these movies, but we just can't do that with these. Like, we just have to kind of talk about them as a whole and then kind of dive into like the fear stuff and the clowns. You know, we haven't really even talked about Pennywise as a clown that much. Although
because that's not really the point.
It's not really the point. It isn't. Because Pennywise takes on multiple different.
It's the glitter.
Yeah,
it's the thing that
it's the thing that he realized was the thing that's going to scare the kids the most, but it's not really his
But it
form.
also draws them in. You know, it's almost like the safest thing.
So let's talk real quick though. Pennywise as a clown. What do you think? What do you think about Pennywise as a clown? Bill Skarsgård's clown versus Tim Curry's clown. Let's put this shit on the board right now.
In chapter 1, the recent one, absolutely my favorite version of Pennywise. Chapter 2 had a lot more CGI as opposed to just Bill Skarsgård and his face and his wacky eyeball and kind of just his mannerisms and kind of him relating, you know, under the bleacher scene where he's relating to that girl and kind of drawing her in. That was very familiar, like the Georgie scene, and that felt very genuine and creepy as opposed to all the CGI. But I also understand the development of their trauma and their trauma reactions.
Well, and Pennywise
grows
takes
over time.
Those various different forms and does a lot of different stuff, which we see in the first one too. But I agree, there wasn't enough Bill Skarsgård in this one. I think there could have been a lot more.
I just wanted to see like just him, you know, interacting with these folks.
So we have the first one is about the kids, second one's about the adults. Still got a lot of kids in the second one. There's a lot of flashbacks, but we have these guys. They've gone off and they've done their own thing, right? So we've got Richie, who is now a stand-up comedian, right? I think in the original book he's a DJ, which I kind of wish they had kept. Like, why couldn't they just make him like a freaking morning
shock jockeys are not like a whole like really super huge nowadays,
but
though, right?
Richie was a morning zoo fucking DJ.
Yeah, he
like,
was.
I wish they had kind of left
Trash mouth.
that because it was perfect. Like, I kind of wish they had kept him as like a shock jock or something.
Yeah, he's
like
the one that wouldn't be afraid to say
but
anything.
they made him into a Bill Hader played him, and he played him amazingly.
So good.
Wonderful job. I have two performances that I thought were fantastic. Bill Hader's was wonderful. Jessica Chastain's was also very, very good.
Absolutely.
Everybody's been raving about James McAvoy. I was not that impressed.
What do you call him?
Poor man's Jeremy Renner.
That's true.
He's poor man's Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
Not that I dislike him in any way, but I just don't think he was that great. I thought there was him and Mike and Ben was okay. You know, there was a lot of overacting.
Yeah.
I felt like, and honestly, they may not have been their fault. It felt like the script was just did not lend itself to like. It was so much shoved into this movie.
There would be, I think, a better opportunity to showcase the irrational desire in them to kind of relive their trauma unknowingly in their adult lives because they don't remember the trauma, but yet somehow they're still repeating these patterns in their adult lives. I think there could have been a more succinct way to explain that. But that's where it comes in that we kind of talked about last night, when we feel like maybe part 1 needed a few other things to make part 2 more cohesive.
Yeah.
But when they started making part 2, they went, you know what? We fucking forgot
We
this.
should have put this in part
We need
1.
this.
Yeah. It felt
we
like,
need that.
yes.
So now we got to like the
Yes.
first part of it felt like it felt like I was Stephen King on cocaine writing it. It was back and forth.
It was just
disjointed.
really cohesive and it really flowed.
The
really
first
well.
one.
First one. Second one. My first impressions, and I say this with this caveat. I really did enjoy it, and I will absolutely watch it again, and I absolutely do recommend it. But my first impressions, very long, too long, felt too long.
You should have either made it a 3-part or
it really
cut
could have been a 3-part for sure. Melodramatic. There was parts in it that just felt so melodramatic, overacted. Script was a little bit
tried to be too funny.
And it tried to, it was too many jokes, which really drowned it out. It drowned out the tension.
And that tension.
There was good jokes. I enjoyed the levity. I liked the comedy, but it was too much.
Right, and that kind of is very in opposition to the idea that when you're dealing with your traumas, humor is of course a good way to kind of process your traumas.
Well, I think they did that a lot of it because it's going to bring more people
for sure.
To watch it,
but
right?
at the same time, it took away from the value in making us all uncomfortable with their journey through their traumas.
Well, it's the tension again. Like it's I said, the tension. It's the tension that you have in a horror movie or in a suspenseful movie where you're building that up. They cut it too many times with humor.
Right.
So it cut that out, and then you don't have that build up as much. But we'll start with that, right? A little bit of our feeling about it. But we open the movie with Adrian Mellon, the Adrian Mellon story, which is how the book kind of opens up. It's one of the first few chapters of the book. We see Adrian Mellon and Don Haggerty, who are a gay couple, and they're at the town fair, right? And they start getting picked on by some bullies, some hate-filled trash people.
So
we'll call them hate-filled trash people.
Hate-filled trash people. Those are the worst.
And they get beat up, and Adrian gets tossed over the bridge into the river. And then Pennywise fishes him out and eats him in the movie, it's in front of Dawn. And then we see all these balloons come up under the bridge, which was very faithful to the book, which I thought was really interesting. So it was a really interesting start. And I think it was great because it set the scene for, again, this town, it is Derry, right? Derry, this evil entity is the town of Derry. And it has its tentacles into all of these various things that go on, all the hate and all the
It has a very
things.
deep reach.
So Mike gets wind of this, right? And he goes, oh shit. It's back, bitches.
Call up the troops.
Mike is the only one who has stayed in town out of all of the losers, right? In the losers club. Mike is the only one that stuck around, right? And he's the town librarian.
And there's something to be said about that because he cannot, because he is in the town, he cannot avoid the trauma of this
and he
experience.
Can't forget.
He cannot
He's the
forget.
only one that hasn't forgotten.
Everything
Everybody else
reminds him of it.
That's right. Everybody else has forgotten. And there's something about the kind of supernatural element of this, right? Or whatever it is that has not necessarily supernatural, but whatever this alien entity has over Derry, it has not allowed Mike to forget and has allowed everybody else to forget almost everything.
Which is very symbolic.
Sure. Absolutely. So then we have the phone calls from Mike, right? Mike starts calling up the Losers Club, calls up Richie. Richie, it's back, bud. Richie pukes. Eddie, man, it's back. Eddie gets in a car wreck. Bill's working on a movie set. Bill, it's back, bud. Bill starts stuttering again. Wife's going, what the fuck, bud? Calls up Stan. Stan goes upstairs, slices his wrists, writes it on the wall. Stan's dead. Calls up Ben. Ben's hot. That's kind of all Ben does. He's just hot. Just a good looking dude now, apparently. I don't even remember what Ben did. He just got kind of flustered in his hotness. But he was Fat Ben turned into Hot Ben. And he's now a contractor architect. Calls up Bev, and Bev is running this very successful clothing line with her husband, but her husband is Dad 2.0.
Yeah.
He's beating her.
And Eddie's wife is Eddie's mom 2.0.
Yeah. Well, and Eddie's wife is just like his mom. Bev gets just a beating from her husband. He takes out the belt, starts beating her. She finally gets away.
It was tough to watch that scene.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, but that's Bev, again, it shows these cycles.
The recurrent cycle of
trauma. They have
trauma.
stayed in the cycle of trauma, and they have still latched. They still have those fears and those same things kind of latching onto their lives.
Even if we don't remember it, that irrational desire to relive the past trauma and repair the past trauma is in order to understand and move beyond it, is how they gain their power, but they can't because they've forgotten the trauma altogether. So it's lying dormant deep inside of them, just waiting.
They don't even realize why it is that they are the adults that they are.
Right.
Because they've forgotten all of these things that have happened to them.
Yeah.
That they experienced growing up, that we saw, in the first movie.
That really made it so that the past informed their future.
So then we get to, they all come back to Derry. They all make the decision. We're coming back to Derry. They've made this oath. They all come back, and they meet at the Chinese restaurant for dinner. They gather around. They kind of catch up a little bit. Then they all agree that it is returned. Everybody's fuzzy about the details about what happened to them when they were children. And then we have this scene at the end of dinner where they've kind of decided that they're all going to try to. Richie's a little unsure. He's like, wants to head back. He doesn't think this is a good idea. Fuck you guys. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this shit. But then at the end of the dinner, we have the fortune cookies crack open, which I've forgotten from the miniseries that it was in the miniseries too, this scene. But the fortune cookies crack open, which is one of the really good scenes in this movie. And we've got this stuff coming out of the fortune cookies. Weird shit like the baby bug with like a baby's face on it.
That was super creepy.
And then an eyeball, all this stuff, which a lot of this was very similar to what was in the book. Great scene, really good stuff. But immediately these guys go, oh shit, it's back. It's doing stuff to us. It's causing us to see things that are not really there. And I don't like it. So they go back to the hotel room and Mike says, hey guys, time for you guys to go on your personal scavenger hunt. I need you guys to go find a relic so that we can kind of go through this ancient ritual and get rid of the ritual of Chud and get rid of this thing once and for all. Right. So they all have to go out and find an artifact that kind of represents their childhood, their battle with Pennywise in the beginning. It's a little bit unclear.
No, it's something that triggers those same emotions from a time period that was very traumatic for each of them.
So this is where and we were talking about this. This is where I feel like they shoved in a bunch of stuff into this area of the movie that really should have been in the first movie, but they were like, oh shit, we didn't put it in there. So now we've
got to explain that.
Now we got to force it into here. So now we have this montage of these guys running around town. And they're all kind of ostensibly just MacGuffins, which are just scenes that are they're just there to keep the plot in motion, but don't really have any like value in and of themselves. Except to show us how they go get their little artifact,
and their individual battles with their traumas.
And don't get me wrong, again, fun scenes. Probably my favorite scenes in the movie are in these montages, which we have Bev going out to the apartment that she used to live in with the old woman, which we all saw in the trailers.
And you did not like the old woman.
I did not. So what they didn't show in the trailer, they showed the old woman and they showed some of the scenes from there, right? But they did not show the fucking creature she turned into. And I did not like it at all.
The old woman with saggy titties?
Fucking terrifying. I did not like it. Probably my absolute, of this entire movie franchise, my scariest moment was the old lady. I did not like the old lady or the thing she turned into. Not a fan at all. And then we have, and her artifact was the postcard that she had kept in the wall, the one that the January Embers postcard that Ben had written to her.
The poem.
So then we have Ben. Ben goes to school. And I kind of can't remember exactly what Ben's.
His is the notebook page that Beverly wrote.
I know it was a notebook page, but what was his monster? What came after him? Do you remember?
I think it was a mummy or something. Was it a mummy? Because there was a mummy when he was younger, too.
Maybe that's what it was. And then he gets into the locker, and then Pennywise shows up in the locker.
Yeah.
Because Pennywise always shows up at some point. Or turns into, goes from whatever their fear-based creature is to himself as his favorite character. And then we have Bill. Bill goes to the sewer, of course, where Georgie was killed. Pennywise appears or whatever and he gets the boat. And the boat is his thing. And then we have Eddie. Eddie goes back to the pharmacy where he gets all of his meds that his crazy mom makes him get. And he gets his inhaler and then goes downstairs to the basement. And there's this scene where his mom's tied up and the leper shows up, right? So the leper from
And
his
he feels
childhood.
like he has to rescue her.
Right. He has to rescue his mom, which again, talk about psychology,
Mhm.
right? Like there's
He feels-
so much.
he feels responsible
for his mom, even though his mom has always been this very
Controlling.
Is it codependent? Is it a
Helicopter.
codependent relationship?
No, it's enmeshed. It's
Yeah.
an enmeshed relationship.
So then we have Richie, and Richie goes to the arcade where he used to play Street Fighter or whatever, and
Pick up on dudes.
sees this, and he made, I guess in the movie,
That was the
in the movie he makes a pass at a guy, or kind of
well, you can
insinuates he
tell
might
that
have-
like he's enjoying his company.
yeah, and then the bullies pick on him and call him names, and being teased for his sexuality, which he has never really dealt with. And then he goes across the street and he's all bummed out and he sits on the bench across from the big Paul Bunyan statue. And then we have my second least favorite or most favorite horror scene in the movie,
The
which is
Tanatomophobia.
the Paul Bunyan statue coming to life was pretty badass.
Yeah, that
which
was kind of
Stephen
gnarly.
King specifically requested that scene be put
Included?
into the movie. Yeah, which I thought was interesting.
It's I think it's important. I haven't quite figured out why the Paul Bunyan statue is so connected to him in terms of his fear. Like maybe he does have a fear of statues.
Right. If you have automaton phobia, trigger warning.
That would be super hard.
Like our friend who wrote in quite a few episodes
Angelica?
back. I can't remember what her name was, but she wrote that she had automaton
I forgot to write it
phobia,
down.
and she was like going to New York City to see the Statue of Liberty. This scene would not be
super
She would not be
uncomfortable.
a fan of this scene. So just a warning there if you watch the movie that this big statue comes to life and tries to eat. And they all have those jaws like
the unhinged
Pennywise
jaw.
has. And so if you have odontophobia,
Yeah.
not going to be a fan of this either. Because teeth,
Lots of decay
right?
and
Fear of teeth. Not good, because when Pennywise opens his mouth, he's got like 50 rows of
so
teeth.
many.
Not cool. So very freaky there too. And then Mike recovers a rock. So anyways, Richie gets a game token. That's what his little deal is. And then Mike recovers a rock from the fight they had with the bullies initially. So then we go through the movie and we've got Henry Bauer showing back up and doing some stuff, doing Pennywise's bidding. We've got more flashbacks. We've got them ultimately making their way down to Pennywise's lair, right? All this stuff leads up to the great ritual of Chud, where they all throw this stuff in the middle. They think that they have defeated.
You're like, yay, it's
I
done.
think they've defeated, the lights, the dead lights show up and they go down into this pottery or whatever it is that he's got this basket that Mike has, that is this ancient ritual to get rid of this thing. And
the balloon starts blowing up
balloon
from
starts
inside.
blowing up inside of it, and we realize
Never mind.
this didn't work.
JK.
This was not what was supposed to happen.
LMAO.
So
ROFL.
then we go into like our, it's kind of similar to the first movie, the back and forth
Epic battle
in the cave where Pennywise turns into this and then he turns into that and then he goes into this and then eventually ends up being the spider, which is what we saw in the miniseries and what we see in the book. His true appearance is as a spider. Now in the book, the spider was kind of, we think it's a female. It starts laying eggs all over the place, which we didn't see in the movies, which could have been kind of fun. And they go around and start killing all the eggs in the book.
And that upsets him.
Actually starts hurting him every time they kill some of the babies.
Well, that stops the cycle of Pennywise, that stops the repeating cycle. It's very
like reproductive concept. Yeah.
Well, and the cycle that exists in Derry is a cycle that is passed down through generations of trauma and of what is right and wrong and how things go and all that stuff.
So we end up with this kind of final scene where the Losers Club is kind of doing their thing. They're beating the entity, and then one last stab at Eddie. Eddie gets killed, right? In
Richie's
arms. And we kind of get the sense that, Richie really did have this thing for Eddie.
Had a
and there's
lot
this
of
kind of
feelings
tender
for him.
moment. And apparently it was going to be a little bit more involved even. But we kind of get that sense, right? And then they kill Pennywise ultimately, or the it creature, by just shaming it into this like ball, right? They show they're not afraid of him, make him small. Right. They make him small by defeating their own fears.
They made all of their fears and all of their traumas. They addressed them. They faced them. They experienced them again as adults and came through it differently this time than they did during the initial trauma. And that is how processing trauma works.
And they reach into his chest as this little baby
heart of fear.
Pull out the heart, and then they crush it. Which was a kind of a kooky scene. I mean, it was kind of crazy.
It was a great allegory.
It was a good allegory. So at the end of the day, I read a really, really, really good review of this movie. We're going to kind of tie this up because I think we're at like 2 hours and blah, 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 blah minutes. Been a long one. I had a feeling this might happen because there's so much here, but that's okay. I'm enjoying it. Are you having fun?
Mm-hmm.
Bloody Disgusting wrote a really good review of this that I thought nailed it for me. It was written by William Bibiani. And he said, of course, many of the problems with It Chapter 2 are inherent to the source material, which we know Stephen King is hard to write. Anybody who's ever tried to like adapt a Stephen King book knows that a lot of times they fall flat because they're hard to adapt. They just are. And I still enjoy every one of them, but they are always very hard to adapt. So a lot of the problems are tough because as they get through the book, they're like, oh shit, how are we going to make this into like something coherent that we can wrap up? But in this case, I don't think the faithfulness to the text was a virtue in this particular case, right?
Sure.
I wish they had deviated
a little bit
because it would have made it a little bit more cohesive and a little bit more watchable. So then he says, of course, many of the problems with It Chapter 2 are inherent to the source material, but in this case, faithfulness is, I wrote that down. The second half of the story is just too scattershot and expository. And in the end, a little too cartoonish to have the same overwhelming emotional effect as the previous It, as Chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
The structure is a hindrance, relying on childhood memories that are treated like they're super important now, but which apparently weren't relevant enough to include in the first film.
Right.
They often play like a selection of mostly scary deleted scenes
from the first one,
instead of like valuable contributions to the second half of a narrative, which I thought was really, really good.
Like once they put it all together, it might feel a little bit better. Like if they recut it.
I really would love to see them recut it somehow.
Yeah.
Make it kind of, I don't know if they will, but
the re-edited version.
And then he ends it this way. He says, for all its flaws, It Chapter 2 is an exhilarating example of horror filmmakers getting all the free reign they could possibly want. From top flight visual effects to a nearly 3-hour running time, to major stars, to truly grotesque violence. The whole film is going damn near overboard, for better or worse. It's easy to admire Muschietti's film for its excess and imagination. It's easy to watch and enjoy it as a fright flick. It's just harder to connect with the adult versions of these characters than it should be. And it's harder to take this story seriously as we did before.
Right.
And I think that really puts its finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's kind of how I walked away from it. I went, man, I saw a lot of cool shit. And it still kept very true to the story, but it just felt very disjointed.
I found myself imagining what all those characters would do, but just arranged differently.
Yeah.
You know, like in my own head after I saw it.
So that was It Chapter 2. I wish we could have really done more of a deep dive into kind of more of the details, but I think as far as the psychology went, you did a really good job of pulling that out of these movies. And I think that's something that I hadn't read a real good breakdown of, is each individual character and how they dealt with their fears and their various different, phobias and psychology. So I think that really, maybe we brought something a little different to the table than just breaking down the movie.
We're trying to do things right.
Yeah. But we were also in a foggy state of almost near sickness. I'm getting there.
Mm-hmm.
So if we rambled a bit, I apologize, but I really enjoyed this Fear of Clowns week. 2 weeks. This Fear of Clowns 2 weeks. I love it. And that always makes it harder to talk about because you want to talk about everything.
So much.
There's so much we didn't get to that I wanted to get to. I had 8 pages of notes.
Holy smokes.
Like, I feel like I should just read, like, just do a separate segment where I just literally
bonus
read
episode
my notes. That goes through like every part of the movie, because there's so much good shit. I mean, we didn't get to talk about, a lot of the little details that I wanted to get to, especially from the last one, because we watched that one again today. But Eddie in the first movie, full of clowns when he walks in that room. Great fear of clowns scene.
So good.
We didn't even get to talk about that one when he walks in and there's just clowns everywhere. That's a good one. We didn't get to talk about Eddie falling through the floor in the first one and breaking his arm. So we got to play. So we get to play this clip. Chris's compound fractures, which is my new favorite clip to play now.
You so much. I hate you so much. I'm going to dress up as that old woman with the saggy titties and chase you around this Halloween.
Ooh, that sounds kinky.
In your nightmares.
That sounds kinky.
You.
Let's get some fear boner going on.
That is not what I was trying to do there.
All right, feardos and your fear boners. Thanks for listening, and we appreciate you guys tuning in every week. I think we're going to take a week off. So you're going to be out of town in Seattle this week on business. And I don't think we're going to be able to get an episode out before next Monday. So let's do a week off, which is probably good after this 2-part series. But I want to tackle in the next episode, and we haven't really talked about this, but can we do trypophobia?
Yeah.
Boring holes?
Boring holes.
It'll be our boringest hole episode.
It'll be an
ever.
exciting episode about boring holes.
Yeah. And we have quite a few friends that have trypophobia. Actually, I'm looking at my microphone right now. Is that not trypophobia?
Yeah, and that over there.
Man, there's a lot everywhere. If you had trypophobia, I'm sorry, man, because there's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff that is really unsettling.
And trypophobia is the fear of what
concentric holes,
small concentric holes, and bumps. Lacey said bumps are a big deal too. So our friend Lacey has that, which you guys know as Lacey the Contrarian, and our friend Randy also has trypophobia. So if you have that phobia, send us an email. Right into us, because I want to hear what movies freak you out, because I don't know what movies I'm going to choose yet. So get on the horn. Let us know, because I'm excited about that one, because I don't know much about that phobia. I think it's really interesting.
I know. I need to do my research.
It's going to be a fun one, but we're going to do it the week after next. So stick with us, guys. We got more great phobias coming up for you. And thanks for listening. And until next time,
stay afraid. Stay very afraid.